Hello, everybody, and I am Jason Creel, and got a thumbs up, so I'm assuming that means somebody can hear me out there. I'm going to adjust my lighting a little bit, see if I can get that out of the picture here. Apologize, it's nighttime and this room is dark, but I've got lit up best I can. But thank you, and welcome to those who are going to watch this by replay after the fact. I'll hopefully be able to provide some good information, also taking questions from you guys. So as you join in, if you have a question, it's something you've been wanting to ask me or just curious about, just simply type it in the chat comment section, and I'll be monitoring those as we go. All right. I'm getting confirmation that people can hear me loud and clear, so that's good to know. What I'm going to start with again, and you guys interrupt me with any questions, but I thought what I'd start talking about is today's March 1st as we're filming this, and it's kind of I don't know where you live, but around here as the weather begins to warm in Alabama and people sort of come out of hibernation, you start seeing those lawn care trailers and trucks. At the gas station, people out doing things in the yard. And I know for me, sometimes I get behind schedule. If I'm out spraying the yard on a Saturday, boy, the homeowners are out there putting out mulch and planting flowers and pine straw. Again, obviously, if you're further north, you may be think I'm crazy and you still got snow on the ground. But we're starting to warm up and things are starting to happen. So today I was in Facebook, things like that, as far as tips people have. And for me, I deal primarily with warm season grasses. So on our warm season grasses, the key is you want to get your pre-emergent out before the crabgrass germinates. Now, somebody sent me a picture today, and it showed baby crabgrass in Alabama, a little south of where I live, but the crabgrass had already germinated. It was visible. I mean, it was small, but if you knew what you were looking for, you could see it. So in that sense, you're already kind of too late for your pre-emerge. I mean, yes, you can. It's not mean your yard's lost for the summer, but the crabgrass had already germinated, and so that kind of proves a point. So I know for me, being just a little bit north of where that crabgrass was seen, the clock's ticking on everybody getting their pre-emergent down. Some of Bucky Lawn Care says 15 degrees in Wisconsin today. I think you still got a little time to get your pre-emergent out because anyway, point being, so doing that, getting your pre-emergent out on time is very important. And then the other thing you want to do, for me, I'm just thinking of how to have a great looking lawn. That's more weed control. Get your pre-emerge out, and that's trying to prevent your warm season weeds, your crabgrass, things like that. And then I usually mix it with a post-emergent because you're trying to get rid of your cool season existing weeds. But the other thing you want to do, again, I'm dealing primarily with these warm season grasses. People got Bermuda grass, oyster grass, and I get these customers are like, how do I get the greenest yard on the block, And I tell them, I say, listen, whether I fertilize it or don't fertilize it or whatever, the people that have the greenish yards typically in the spring are the ones that go in there and they mow the lawn early. Now, you might hear people say, I want to scalp my lawn. You got the crazies out there that set their lawn on fire. But whatever you do to get rid of that dormant grass, again, bear with me if you're in the cool season grass areas. This is more for warm season grasses. But when you get rid of that big, thick layer of dormant Bermuda, what you do, you're letting the sunlight get down and start warming those roots, and it'll start turning green before the neighbors. And it just happens. And I had somebody the other day, they asked me, they said, Jason, how come my yard looks dirty and my neighbor's looks clean? It took me a minute to figure out what she was talking about. And basically the other yard had been cut, and it kind of, got rid of a lot of that dirty, dormant Bermuda. So anyway, let's address some of the questions here. I've got quite a few, actually. Thank you guys for helping me out here. Do you mix surfactant with fungicide apps? That is from Lambert 1702. He's down in in Alabama, South Alabama, south of me. Well, all right. So let me tell you what I know about fungicide, and which is going to be limited. But basically, the way I was taught is if you end up with a fungus, let's say you're in this yard, and I had a centipede yard. You probably got some centipede grass down in Baldwin County, I would imagine. But I had a centipede yard that didn't drain well in the area. And every year I would get a fungus in that same yard over and over again. Happened to be my yard, so it was easy to follow. But I've seen it in other yards too. Well, what I was told was, hey, listen, you notice it in the springtime. You got this giant fungus in the lawn. Looks like it's dead. I had somebody the other day tell me, said, yeah, my customer was all over me because they had a huge dead spot in their yard and they thought it was due to the mowing. I said, I just about guarantee you it's a fungus. Anyway, what you need to do is put that fungicide out in the fall to help prevent that spring, what is going to become visible in the spring. So typically about the same time, we're going to do our fall pre-emergent right before that cool weather starts. And you put it out and get it watered in. So do you need a surfactant with it? Don't get a second opinion on this, but typically I'm mixing it with an application. Okay, so I'm putting it out maybe at the same time as my fall pre-emergent, or use a granular product, and it definitely needs to be watered in. But I think if you just went out with the fungicide, then the answer would be no. But oftentimes I've got it mixed with like a post-emergent, something like that, so it ends up being mixed with a surfactant. But I think the more important is that it gets watered in very well. And I've heard also not as good on the low volume when you're using like a ride-on spreader sprayer. Those are usually fine on or pre and post emergent. But on fungicide, sometimes you want a lot more water to get it in the soil. All right, what's your favorite mower? That's from Caleb Leatherberry. I have owned a lot of mowers, to be honest with you. Right now I've got the Exmark Staris, but I've had the first mower I had was a Hustler Mini Z 44-inch. I really like that mower. I've had several Hustler mowers. I've had several Gravely mowers. I've had Exmark, had Skag, and those are typically the brands that if I was recommending. Those are, I'm not meaning that those are the only 4 brands out there that are great. Of course, Toro is going to be very similar to the Exmark, and those are all good brands. So depending on at that point, whatever your dealer support is, or which one, if you're looking to use, can you find a good low hour mower? But one of those brands is typically what I recommend to people. Let's see. Hello from Virginia, 15 degrees in Wisconsin. Hello from Millbrook. Know exactly where that is. Good to hear from you, Brian Watson. Let's see, looking for questions here. Is it okay to spray centipede grass with a mixture of prodiamine and Celsius right now? Good question from Wesley. I would say it depends on where you are. And the reason I say that, if your centipede is already starting to turn green, like for instance, last week we got up in the 70s. And a lot of times you're going to have centipede grass in more coastal areas. So in a lot of areas, you're going to be greener than I am here where I'm at with your centipede. So if it's already a significant portion of it's green, then I would caution you against mixing the Celsius in there. We use atrazine, is about the post-emergent is going to cause the least amount of damage. Now it's going to be slow to kill any weeds, but not. So I would say if it's fully green and you want to use Celsius, go ahead. If it's fully dormant or at least mostly dormant, go ahead and use Celsius. But if you're already seeing a lot of transition halfway and half, then using Celsius, it could cause some delayed green up. Not just Celsius. Not picking on Celsius. That could be just about any post-emergent herbicide other than atrazine is the one we use, and typically putting that out I'm using at 20 ounces per acre and mixing it with very low rate of prodiamine, because if you think about it, you typically not going to have like a huge crabgrass problem with your centipede lawn. So but I do put a little bit of prodiamine there, but I do it round 1, like January, February time frame. All right. Appreciate all the kind words people saying. Great catching you live from Roger Wakefield, lead plumber on YouTube. Go check out Roger's channel. Good to hear from you. Let's see. Need to put out pre-emergent also seed in St. Louis. When and how? Okay, so that you're going to be cool season grasses there, PJ, and to be honest, that's outside of my expertise. I know for us, like we get some customers in the South and they want to put out they want to overseed their lawn in the fall. And like, I'll give you an example. I had a customer this year and he didn't tell me he was going to overseed. And I don't ask him, not maybe one out of 300 people around here overseed their lawn. Just they wanted to keep it green in the winter. So and now he's been a customer for a while. He's never overseeded in the past that I know of. Anyway, I go look at his lawn in January when I'm spraying, and I said, "Oh, he overseeded." And I had used Spectacle Flow back in the fall. I just spray his front yard. I don't spray his backyard. His backyard was the luscious green ryegrass. I mean, it looked unbelievable, and his front was the most patchy, nasty looking speckled ryegrass I'd ever seen, which just gave me confidence that the spectacle flow worked. I didn't really even talk to the customer. I just, um, he probably, I don't know what he thought. He might have thought, some reason it just didn't take in that front yard. He didn't know I put out a pre-emergent that's going to keep it from rooting. So somebody asked is Spectacle available to DIY homeowner. You can buy, that's a kind of a misconception for a lot of people to think that lawn care pros get special access to products. I was mentioning atrazine a while ago. Atrazine is a restricted use pesticide, meaning I have to have my license to get that. I'm sure you can get it. There's ways to get stuff, but anyway, I'm asked for my license when I go to purchase that. Where most of the products we use is anybody can buy them. It's not my special license that allows me to buy those products. My license allows me to apply those products on someone's lawn and charge them money. So, yes, you can buy Spectacle Flow. Is lime suggested for Central Alabama? I would say yes. And some people say we don't do any. Why put lime out without a soil test? And I get your point, but in some areas, some people would say that, but in some areas, like where we live, almost all the yards are going to have acidic soil. So it's just pretty much built into everybody's program. And over time, that soil is going to continue to become more and more acidic. So yeah, we put lime out every year, and I would recommend doing that. If nothing else, it's kind of preventative maintenance to keep your pH up. And if you start seeing that you've got a lot of wild onions, wild garlic, broom sedge, it's probably a sign that you do have acidic soil, and you can really put more lime out to help raise the pH of your soil. All right. Is aeration the best way to have a greener lawn? Well, that may be a side benefit somehow. I would just think about it. You're basically poking holes in the dirt to allow hopefully deeper root growth. So if you've got compacted soil and you can aerate, then you're going to allow better rooting, which could lead to greener grass in some ways. But the idea is more of breaking up that compacted soil, allowing a deeper root growth, allowing more nutrients down further into the soil. But I would say, yeah, green lawn may be a side benefit. What is the revenue of your business? That's a little personal. I won't get into that, but thanks for the question. But I'm not going to talk numbers. But I will say my weed control fertilization business is going well, and each year seems to get a little better. I get a little smarter how I go about my business. Profits are going up, and just continue to grow that route density. And it's not uncommon, not just for me, but for a lot of the weed control. A lot of my friends, I tell people $1,000 a day per one-man truck is very common. That's your revenue. Typically, your expenses is 20 to 25% as far as your chemical costs. Now you got other overhead besides that. And of course, if you bring on employees, your overhead is going to go up. Greetings from North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Wesley was the one asking about the centipede. So I'm gonna guess in Myrtle Beach you might be a little greener on your centipede than we are here in Birmingham. Skipped my last question from DIY Adventure Dad. I must have missed that one. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Appreciate all the questions. You guys are doing great. Oh, okay. Best post-emergent for clover and cool season lawns. Sorry about that. Again, I'm gonna need some help on the cool season stuff. I'm sorry. What I'm gonna try to do is bring a guest in here, and I'm not sure. I would think is metsulfuron labeled for cool season grasses. I'd have to check on that. But it will definitely knock out some clover at a very cheap rate, and it's something I use a lot. But I think DIY Adventure Dad, he said he's out of here because I skipped his question. Greg Fields says wants me to have my Lawn Care Life conference again. We're considering it for sure. We did skip it this year, but we've done that 3 times. Had a Lawn Care Life conference, been an annual event, and got a lot of sponsors involved, and that was has been a good. Yeah, I didn't realize so many people from Alabama watch my channel. I mean, you guys are naming your towns off, and a good thing I know where I'm at so that I'll be able to. I know my Alabama geography pretty well. Somebody says call Lawn Care. And Alan could definitely help me on some of my cool season weed control. It's like I can help him. He sends people to me when he needs a weed identified, and I'm not the best at that. But anyway, people saying thank you. Oh, Paul Smith says 2,4-D will smoke clover and cool season grasses. Thank you for that, Paul. Is there anything a person can buy at Home Depot for weeds that actually works? Well, yeah, I mean, you can read the label on anything at Home Depot. Like, for instance, I was at Home Depot or Lowe's the other day, and they're selling 007 with prodiamine or with dementia. I can't remember which one, but it's a 50-pound granular bag. I mean, it's got the same active ingredients as what we use. It's a product that they just happen to carry there, and you put it out. Now that's a pre-emergent. You're going to put it out as a granular form. It's going to be significantly more expensive than what we use in the liquid form, but it is the same active ingredient. The difference is when I put it in a big spray tank, it's the liquid form or powder form, whatever that turns into liquid, and I can, I can mix my post-emergence in there with it. So if you put out a granular pre-emergent, a granular prodiamine, that's great, but you got to go back and spot treat the weeds because that's not doing anything for your existing weeds. Now, maybe you got a clean lawn and you don't have any existing weeds, but sometimes you've got existing weeds that are small that you don't know are there. And so, there's stuff at Home Depot that'll work, but you probably paying more. So anyway. How do you know if your yard needs dethatching? Well, again, our grass, warm season grasses, you got zoysia grass is probably the one that breaks down the slowest. It's a woodier. The blades of grass are just woodier. They don't decompose as quickly. Now, we tell people, hey, you hear people all the time say, don't bag your grass, just the clippings add nutrients back in the soil. Well, that's true. It's just at this time of year when people are not mowing regularly, sometimes you do just have a big old nasty layer of thatch. So, I mean, sometimes you just look at it and you can tell. So I tell people if you're going to bag your yard, do it the first cut of the year when you're getting rid of all that dormant grass so that you don't just have a big layer of thatch that, maybe eventually you'll start decomposing. But once you get in the summer, hot months, and you're mowing regularly, then the bagging becomes less needed, and that thatch is going to eventually start breaking down. Recommend a dethatch centipede. Well, I'd say this about centipede. I've seen some centipede yards that people let get 3 and 4 inches tall, and it's so thick and got tons of thatch. But that, to me, that's a mistake. If you're keeping it low, I mow my mower goes down 1.5 inches. So when I had a centipede yard, I dropped it to 1.5 inches, and I'm mowing it regular. So I don't have the thatch buildup. But somebody lets it get 4 inches, and you're probably going to have more of a thatch problem. Best pest post-emergent. Yeah, Wesley, you talking about pest post-emergent or best post-emergent? For pests, we use Talstar. It's a great product if you're going to go after different lawn pests. But if he's talking about the best post-emergent, that's kind of a loaded question. Depends on, you said, for Bermuda grass. So it just depends on what weeds you're trying to control. If I'm out spot treating, I'm usually mixing a broadleaf product or with a sedge product. So I've got centipede and Celsius mixed together. I'm sorry, not centipede and Celsius. Celsius and Certainty mixed together. I've got Change Up and mixed with Pro Sedge or something like that. So it got something that's going to help me with those broadleaf weeds, and then also that sedge product. And why you say, why would you do that? Well, I only had to walk over the yard one time that way. I don't have to spray all the broadleafs and come back and go back and spray the sedges. So anyway, Bermuda Grass Central has joined me. Thank you for watching me. Good to hear from you. Y'all go check out his channel. He's got a lot of good content as well. How many ride-on sprayers do you have? I just have 2. I've got the old Ground Logic, what used to be Ground Logic, and it's now branded under Ferris. And then I've got what used to be the Exmark LTS, which is now the Z Spray. It's branded under Z Spray on the side of it, but it's the LTS model, Lean to Steer, the smaller one. Make sure I don't skip anybody here, because what percentage of your customers have their soil tested? Do you adjust their program accordingly? Well, very few of mine have their soil tested. And I get the point of having your soil tested. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but it's very difficult as a lawn care business to have hundreds of customers, and some have thousands of customers, and to develop some custom program for each individual customer. You talk about a challenge. That if somebody can do that, that's great. But for most companies that I've experienced, you have a program that works great for 99% of the yards, and you do that program, and if for some reason it's not responding well, then in that situation, you say, hey, let's get a soil test. Now, you may say that's backwards. Well, the truth is, what we do to the yards does work in 99 out of 100 situations, probably actually more than that. And there may be a situation where, if it's not responding, you say, okay, well, let's get a soil test. I had a situation last year where we got a soil test and saw that there were some things we could do, special additives to the yard, and hopefully can see some improved results this year. Greetings from Southern California. I knew some people watch me out there. I just didn't know. I like hearing from I guess it's wrong time of day, but we do actually have a lot of viewers in the lawn care community on YouTube that watch from Australia, New Zealand, and you got people in the UK that watch us as well. So that's always they got different terminology. We talk about weed eaters or string trimmers, and an Australian guy told me yesterday, he said, we call them whippersnippers, mate, and so anyway. Jay's Crazy Cut says the centipede does well here in South Carolina at 3 to 4 inches. That's, for me, that's tall, but to each his own. I like to keep mine mowed short. Ron Henry, I'm actually looking at some of your videos today, I believe. Graham Products, Graham Spray Equipment's a sponsor to the channel, and they do they're based over in Georgia, and that's who I buy my spray tanks from. He gave a shout out to them. John Kaiser says he just bought the LTS. It's great. Glad to hear that. What kind of truck do you use? I got the I've done some truck swapping, just to be honest with you, but I've got an F350 with the flatbed with dual rear wheels on it, and because I just wanted to be able to. I love the flatbed personally, whether you get an MPR with a flatbed, but for my flatbed, I can I've got a 400-gallon split tank, so it's like 300 on one side, 100 on the other. And the reason that's important is I can use that 300-gallon side. I'm mostly Bermuda zoysia, so I've got that mixed up with my Bermuda zoysia blend, but I've got the other side with my Centipede St. Augustine blend. Or maybe a situation where, like say right now, I've got my regular customers. I've got my round 2 mix. I'm spraying out the big side, but I've got the new customers. If I get a new sign up, maybe I need to go with Dimension or some other product to try to control that crabgrass that's already germinated. So I may have that mixed up in the 100-gallon side. So I love the split tank. So that's what I've got, a 400-gallon split tank on a F350. Are you using PGR on any of your lawns? Yes, I am. Growth regulator, there's stuff for shrubs, stuff for your grass. Tell you the lawn I use it the most on is my own. I use Podium is the one that I've been primarily using, and I apply it once a month during the growing season. I've got 4 acres, and I'm trying to keep it nice. Somebody probably followed me on YouTube, seen I've plugged my yard and it filled in. Well, this year they just put in a septic tank and dug half my yard up. So I'll be growing it in again. But once it gets growing, I want to mow it and keep it short. So I do use the growth regulators. Does pre-emergent prevent Bermuda grass from spreading, or does it not affect that? Okay, good question from Billy. I've heard different things. I'll tell you what I've done. I think it can hinder it from rooting to some degree. But so yeah, if you got brand new sod out there, don't spray it. Okay, let's use some common sense. Especially if you got a customer that just spent thousands of dollars having their sod put out, and you're saying right now, oh, I got to get my pre-emergent down before their crabgrass germinates. Well, I don't want to take that risk, okay, of going out there and spraying their whole yard and it not rooting properly. But for my yard, let's say, I'll give you an example. Last year, my yard had a lot of big bare spots. And the year before, like I said, I'd plugged it. It hadn't filled in all the way. And I didn't want it getting taken over with crabgrass. So what I did was I put out the pre-emergent, but I did it early. I think I did it in December. And my idea was let that pre-emergent kind of hang in there and hopefully long enough to prevent most of the crabgrass. But by the time the grass really starts spreading in June, July, August, kind of my big months to really fill in bare spots in my yard, hopefully that pre-emergent would have kind of worn off by then and would not hinder rooting. And that's the result I had, because like I said, what I didn't want to happen was not use the pre-emergent, have a yard full of crabgrass. Now there's nowhere for my Bermuda grass to grow. It's being choked out. I mean, by the crabgrass. It's losing the competition there. So that's the strategy I used last year, and it actually worked great. Somebody said, what part of Alabama I am? I live just north of Birmingham. What are you applying to fescue yards right now? We kill our fescue out of our Bermuda lawns. So sorry, I don't deal with fescue. New Jersey, I was saying he appreciates the education on the warm season grasses. When you're dealing with 400 customers, I can't see doing soil tests without somebody requesting them. I agree with that. Do you think I'm late in North Carolina on putting down some pre-emergent on Bermuda? I would not think so. I haven't put any down since October, just had 2 days in the upper 70s. I would say you probably need to hurry. I mean, if you're getting in the upper 70s, you definitely need to hurry doing that. And if you're worried about it being a little bit late, maybe the crabgrass might have already germinated. It's typically around soil temperatures of 55 degrees. I don't think you get 1 day in the 70s that means your crabgrass germinates, but it's coming soon. If it's already germinated, you can go with Dimension, which has some effect on knocking out the baby crabgrass as well as preventing crabgrass that's not germinated. Overseeded my Riviera Bermuda with champion ryegrass. When should I kill the ryegrass off in Oklahoma, and what should I use? I did the same thing last year. Put out a annual ryegrass again because my Bermuda hadn't spread all the way, and I just didn't want the big bare spot. So I put the ryegrass out. Plus, I was wanting to try to lay some stripes like you guys do with the cool season grasses. And but about March, it started warming up, and the ryegrass was growing like crazy. And I was thinking, it's getting warm enough now. I don't want my Bermuda grass having to compete with the ryegrass. I want the Bermuda to fill in. So I use a product called Katana. To me, it's the best that I know of. And there's other products that'll kill the ryegrass out of a Tribute Total, or Negate is one I believe would work. But anyway, Katana is what I use, and as the weather warms up, it'll work when it's cold. But as the weather starts warming up, you put it on the ryegrass, it will smoke it in a hurry. Let's see. What would you recommend to kill POA and a dormant zoysia? Got a few with young POA. You got some of the same products. You can Revolver, I guess, is about the best. You got Negate, you got Tribute Total, you got Celsius, Katana. There's a lot of options for that. Let's see. What brand pre-emergent for Bermuda and Mississippi? Like I said, I'm putting out prodiamine is what I use. If you get it down before the crabgrass germinates, if you're late, you can use Dimension, or the other thing I'm going to do is what I've started doing is if I'm late, I'm going straight post-emergent. Like I'm using that Drive Accelerate, which is quinclorac. You put quinclorac out, and then I'm mixing it with the prodiamine. I'm just trying to just straight knock it out, even if it's baby. So that's kind of the strategy I use if I'm late. But like I said, if you're before the crabgrass germinates, like we start spraying January the 2nd and try to get everybody done by February the 15th, then prodiamine is one of your cheaper options and definitely an effective option. All right. Let's see. Connecticut. I do know where that is on the map, barely. But he's asking about a growing weed that fans out. It's choking out my lawn. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to bring on a cool season expert for us, and I'm going to start trying to do these more often. And we'll have a day plan to just have a cool season day, so that we can get some of these questions. So if you guys stick with me and be patient, I apologize that I don't know the answer. Caleb asked, where do you get your products? I buy from Harrell's, Harrells. They are a supplier, and they blend their fertilizers, and then they carry all the a lot of the lines for the weed control products, and they ship them to your door, which I like. So I call my sales rep, and he ships it to me, and oftentimes I get it very quickly, which is nice. Would you recommend Dimension 30 days after prodiamine to catch any crabgrass that prodiamine may have missed? Good question by Diamond Turf. Personally, I don't do that. I pretty much save the Dimension. Dimension is going to have a higher price tag on it, which is fine. I mean, and if you want to, people talk about changing up their chemistries and things like that, using different products. But from what I've been told, there's not been resistance shown for crabgrass to prodiamine. So prodiamine is very effective for crabgrass. So, what I've seen with a good prodiamine application before it germinates, there's really not a need to follow up with a separate product. So what I do is a split application of my prodiamine. I put a heavier dose out in round 1. Again, it starts January 2nd, goes through February 15th in my area for my program, and then come back and do a second dose, a lighter dose. And by the time that second dose comes out, the crabgrass may or may not have germinated. But even if it has germinated, what you're doing is also kind of extending that barrier and hopefully keeping out some of the summer weeds that haven't germinated yet. So it still can help with you. If you guys start using all the abbreviations and stuff, I know what LOL means, but that's about it. So you're going to have to spell out complete sentences for me to follow you. So I'm not in on the texting lingo. Maybe it's just a typo. Let's see. Any recommendations for Bermuda in a new construction? Sod was laid last year. If it was laid last year, I mean, surely you're fine. Now, I'll say this. Some of these yards in new construction, you know how they are. They just throw the grass down with very little topsoil, and half the time got bricks and cement and everything underneath the grass. So, I wish they would just give the homeowners an option like, hey, would you want to pay $1,000 extra to have a layer of topsoil put down? That would make a huge difference. But what you can do is, if you've got terrible soil, you could try top dressing it. Probably want to wait till it starts actively growing, maybe in June. And if you start top dressing it at that point, the Bermuda can actually start to root in that better soil. Again, that's more of a recommendation if you got pitiful soil. If it was late a year ago, I don't see any reason why you can't go with a full-fledged program this year of putting out your pre-emergent, fertilizing it when it starts to get hot, and get it, treat it like a normal yard. And it doesn't take a year. Bermuda, if you put Bermuda down in April, in May, it's going to be stuck to the ground many times. So. Yes, Sean says Katana herbicide to kill ryegrass. Absolutely, it works fantastic. How long did it take you to gain your first full spray route from Billy? Good question, Billy. The first year when I started spraying, I got about 100 customers. Next year, I got maybe a little over 100. Next year, I got 100 each year. So it took about 3 years to get to 300 or so. But honestly, I could probably handle 4 years. Now, that was me doing mostly 6 applications. I went up to 7 applications. Some people are doing 9, 8, 9, up to 12 applications. So the more applications you're doing, the quicker you can fill that route up. Me doing 6 and then changing over to 7, it took me 3 to 4 years, honestly, to fill it up. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make a living. And I was mowing grass, doing some other things to kind of make it work while I got established. But I was picking up about 100 customers a year and not being super aggressive in my marketing, to be honest with you. What type of mulch is best for flower beds? To me, it's kind of personal preference. Just mulch. I don't know varieties of mulch, but some people choose mulch or pine straw. It's kind of personal preference to me. People say the pine straw is acidic. People use pine straw where I live all the time. I kind of prefer pine straw, honestly, but mulch is fine too. Average soil temperature is 47 in North Carolina. Get the pre-em out. I agree with you, Paul. I think it's definitely sneaking up on you. I tell people it's better to be early than late. You know what I'm saying? You just go on and get it out. Best working non-selective herbicide I can get. The HD stuff is not working. Glyphosate is kind of the norm there, and you can get that at Home Depot. You can get the generic version with 41% glyphosate, and works great. There's other options out there. Let's see. Do I have experience with coastal pre-em? I don't, though I am familiar with it. I've seen it. It does mix some products, so it's kind of like, so for me, I'm putting out Spectacle and mixing it with simazine and like metsulfuron or whatever post-emerge I decide to use, 2,4-D or something. So it's kind of mixing your prodiamine with your simazine, and so yeah, I've actually heard good things about it. It's a different, to me, Spectacle works so great on POA that's the route I've been going. But I am familiar with Coast, but I haven't tried it personally. You have any luck killing Dallas grass? Going to get me all emotional here talking about Dallas grass in a bad way, get me fired up. This is a great time to do it in the winter. If warm season grasses, here's the strategy we use. We pound it with, when it starts to cool off, like October, November, you start pounding it with Tribute Total or Certainty in Celsius combination. You can do that twice in the fall if you want. Let's say October, November. Then when your grass goes dormant, now this is for a Bermuda lawn, you can use glyphosate in the wintertime when it's dormant. I use it at 32 ounces per acre, or if you mix it up in a little handheld sprayer, you put like 2 or 3 ounces per gallon of water and spray it lightly. Okay, if you spray it heavy, you can do 1 ounce per gallon of water. But like I said, so me using 32 ounces per acre, that's less than 1 ounce, but I've got, that's if I'm blanketing an area, and I only do that if the yard is just terrible. And to be honest with you, if the yard's terrible, just don't take them on as a customer. So I'm not interested. I'm just telling you how to kill it if you want to. And then you pound it, when it's dormant in January. If you come back in March and your grass is starting to turn green, you see that Dallas still trying to hang on. pound it again with the tribute total or the Celsius certainty combo. And so you're hitting it in the fall, and then you're hitting it again in the winter, and then you're hitting it again in the spring, and you can get rid of a lot of it. Now, the non-legal option is the MSMA. It's not labeled for residential properties. That's used in the summertime, multiple applications, and that works, but it's not for residential properties. All right, let's see. Hold on, I'm catching up on my questions. You guys are doing great. I literally didn't know if I'd have 5 people on here and get 2 questions and have to talk about my grandmother, or if you guys will be joining in. So thank you for the questions are coming at about the rate I can handle them. So that's great. And I'm reading them without. I probably should read them first. I'm afraid I'm gonna read one and not know the answer. Let's see. I have a Bermuda yard with perennial rye in my yard. Have nut sedge issue. What do you recommend? From Mississippi, nut sedge. I haven't found that like next level nut sedge product, and I've tried them. I've tried, I guess, just about all of them. So, I mean, I'm still using mostly, you got Sedge Hammer or, use that, or Pro Sedge, same active ingredient, and then Certainty is ones I've used. I've used Solera. I've used some other ones, but Certainty and Pro Sedge are the 2 I use mostly, and I'm oftentimes, like I said, mixing those with something. Now, if you've got some Kalinga, the Pro Sedge is not going to be as effective. Certainty would be a little bit more effective, or you might switch over and use, if you just got a lot of yellow nut sedge and Kalingas, and then you could use something like a Blindside or a Dismiss. Probably has sulfitrazone in it. So it just depends. Depends on your situation. We have purple nut sedge as well as Kalinga, as well as yellow nut sedge. So I kind of trying to cover all my bases without having to spray multiple products. Have you been burnt with fertilizer or got some in your eyes? Not that I remember. Can't say I hadn't had a little cut on my finger or something, and kind of burns a little bit that way, but certainly want to wear your PPE. Is it too late to apply prodiamine in Northeast Alabama? I do not think so, but I would get it out as soon as you can. Do you have any carpet grass lawns? And if so, do you treat them like centipede? Well, yeah, I know I'm familiar with carpet grass. If you ever need to kill carpet grass, we use Celsius, works great on it. Tribute total, I'm sure, would work as well. I don't have any like pure carpet grass lawns, but if I did, that's probably what I would do. I remember having a yard that was so much carpet grass, but it was really a Bermuda grass lawn, and it was kind of like one of those situations where I was like, should I just try to kill it and let the Bermuda fill in, or should I just leave it carpet grass? So sometimes you gotta, but I don't have any just pure carpet grass lawn. If you don't familiar with carpet grass, it's kind of an ugly centipede. I mean, it's a little bit nastier. It's just not going to grow as tight and nice. I mean, so I'm not a carpet grass fan, to be honest with you. Most effective way of gaining customers. Good question. For me, what I have done is a couple things. One, a nice website and having that rank well on Google in my local area. That has been a huge benefit. And then the other is just getting to know people who can send me those referrals. So me being a weed control guy, I'm getting to know the mowing guys, and they send me a lot of business, just to be honest with you. And vice versa, I send them a lot of business, so it works out well. Let's see. Image at Tractor Supply, somebody said that's probably for the sedges, I'm going to assume. To use spectacle at a full rate. So for me in the fall, I'm going with, I had a good interview. There's a video if you want to search for spectacle flow, lawn care life, I'm sure it'll come up. But I interviewed a Bayer rep, and he gave a very thorough interview about spectacle flow. And so what I do, I use a single application in the fall, 6.5 ounces on my Bermuda and Zoysia. And this year I was using on my centipede and St. Augustine's at, I believe, 4 ounces per acre. So yeah, I just use one. Now they say that it's great to use it in a split app as well. If you had maybe 8 applications in your program or 9, then you could go with that split app and do like 3 and 3 or 3 1/4 and 3 1/4, something like that. but I'm using 6.5 ounces in one shot, September, October timeframe. Let's see. I used Roundup on my Dallas grass early January. Worked like a charm. Yes, I have done the same thing, Lee, and it does work. Let's see. Best time to scalp a Bermuda lawn in Georgia. I'd say you can do it now. I mean, the thing is, if you scalp it too early, I guess the risk you run is we get a really cold weather, and I would think that's past us. But let's just say you scalped your Bermuda lawn and it got super cold for some reason, you might risk some winter damage. But by the time it's March, to me, it's no rush to get out there and do it in February. It's not like the grass is going to start growing. I mean, so I think anytime in March, to let it start warming up the roots and get rid of that dormant grass. And that's, to me, like I said, if you want to start turning green earlier than your neighbors. If you don't like cutting grass, just leave it shaggy and nasty, and it won't hardly grow till May. It was what I've seen. I remember a person didn't call me till June to have their grass cut, and it was so thick and nasty. But if you keep it long, it's not going to turn green as fast. Let's see. MSO added to the tribute will kill Dallas grass. That's a very good point. Thank you, Brandon. That makes a big difference, as far as MSO, your methylated seed oil, I think is what we're talking about there. But it basically is it's a surfactant on, it's basically like, it's more natural to the plant. So the plant is supposedly takes in the herbicide better using MSO. That's the way it was explained to me. So yeah, I've heard that is very important when you're trying to kill Dallas grass, is to use that. Let's see. 14 and starting let's see. Prairie Creek Farm. I'm 14 years old, trying to start a landscaping fertilization business. What do you recommend charging and using for fertilizer? Well, you charge based on your square footage usually. I mean, of course, there's going to be some variations to that if, based on where you live and the products you're using. You can't charge. Anyway, you're going to have to kind of understand your market a little bit and understand what your expenses are. But if you're 14, you're starting early, you got a lot of time to learn and to dial in your numbers. But yeah, I use a pricing chart that's based on, and there's a lot I've got information at lawncarelife.com. If anybody's interested, there's all kind of documents and stuff. I mean, yeah, we sell them, so I'm not just setting our sales. The reason I'm not here is to sell stuff, but there is helpful information people starting in that situation. So, but that's great. I'm glad you're 14 and getting going, because that's a lot better than what most 14-year-olds are doing with their time. All right. Any tips for helping a severely scalped zoysia lawn, 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch, wake back up after getting taken over with torpedo grass or nutsedge? This sounds really bad. All right. Well, I've had one bad experience with torpedo grass. This yard customer got on to me and said, "Why is my yard full of crabgrass?" And I didn't know what it was. I go back there and look and send a picture to my mentor. He says, "Hey, that's torpedo grass. That's bad news." And so they said, "Well, what's the recipe for torpedo grass in a Bermuda lawn?" They said, "Well, he gave me the product, said use this 3 times, but don't necessarily count on it working." Well, that's what happened. It turned it a little bit yellow and it didn't work. So, to be honest with you, I don't know that there's going to be a good solution for that. I'm sorry, but if you're filled up with torpedo grass and nutsedge, scalping it, I don't think is going to get rid of the torpedo grass or the nutsedge, and it's probably stressed out the zoysia really bad. But I mean, you want to. I don't know. That's a bad situation. I'm sorry. I feel bad for that yard. Let's see. Somebody's dad works for Bayer on the seed and chemical side. Maybe give us, probably has some insider information about some of the products we're using, Celsius, Tribute Total, and Top Choice Fire Ant Control and stuff like that. Is my St. Augustine grass damaged from this Texas freeze? Maybe so. It can. I know there's areas in Texas, obviously, it's been all over the news, got colder than normal. So it is possible that you're going to have a little some damage. So you'll know soon enough. I'll put it that way. What pre are you using in your beds? Well, I was using like the freehand and snapshot things like that, the granular products. But this year I'm switching over. I'm sorry, slipping my mind here. Emily, help me out with the the liquid products. Anyway, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it, but I'm switching to a new product, a liquid product, and going to mix it with glyphosate because the problem, the others work great, snapshot and things like that, and the freehand was one I was using, but you put it out and you still got to go back and spray it with glyphosate or something, the existing weeds. So I just thought, why don't I just mix those together and spray it one time and be done with it. And of course, you got to be careful. We can't get on the plants, but I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of the liquid product I'm using. It's in my chemical closet. Quinclorac and MSO will smoke torpedo grass in zoysia. I'll have to see that one to believe it. Maybe you're right. I don't know, but I believe I tried it in a Bermuda yard, 3 applications, and it did not die. When would you recommend core aeration? I mean, people around here, they do it, in the spring and then again in the fall. A lot of times in the, cool season grasses, they are doing it a lot in the fall because they're overseeding, things like that. Any tips for starting a new lawn mowing business? Shall I pass out flowers or business cards to people's houses? It's been asked 1,000 times. Well, it has. I tell people, I really feel like you need to go ahead and spend a little bit of money on your brand if you can, because it's really hard to make it in the lawn business charging a low price and just get out there working more. So to be able to command that higher price or to go after those well-paying clients, you have to have a brand that says you're worth that. And I mean, I hate to say it that way, but sometimes people pull up and they're just not. They don't look professional enough to be able to compete for that business. So I would go ahead and spend money on a logo, on a website, on the truck. I'm not saying you got to get it wrapped, but I just have like a small, clean decal on the side of my truck. But it just kind of gives me that look like, okay, this guy's serious, and I'm not shooting myself. I'm not at a disadvantage when I walk up to the customer's house and they're thinking, so people want to deal with somebody that looks like they've got their act together, whether they do or not. So, of course, your work has to back it up, but I would spend a little bit of money on your branding. He says, talk about aeration. We did mention that as far as the timing and dethatching. Is it needed yearly? I don't do it yearly. I'll say that. But again, if I know people that have the cool season grasses, it's built into their program a lot of times, and because they're overseeing. I mean, it's just a different situation. Our warm season grasses, is it healthful? Yes. Yeah, SureGuard. That's right, Emily. I'm sorry. Somebody said SureGuard is absolutely what I'm using. As far as nozzle goes, I don't have a special nozzle. For the I'm not using it's just the round nozzle. I probably need to get updated on my nozzle. I'm not using a fan tip or anything like that. So anyway, but yeah, I'm mixing SureGuard. I'm saying I'm mixing. That's my plan to do that this year. I don't do a lot of tree and shrub programs and flower beds and stuff. I mean, I do some of that, but very little, honestly. Let's see. And we're going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes. I'm cutting off at 9 o'clock, and that'll be 1 hour. But this has exceeded my expectations, to be honest with you. But I set low expectations in life. That way I wake up and I'm hardly ever disappointed. I mean, I just think, today's probably going to go terrible. And then when it goes just pretty decent, I'm thinking, what a great day. So that's my life advice for you today. Let's see. What can I do in March and April for lawn care in Virginia to make money? Somebody gave me a tip one time I thought was pretty cool, whether it's in the fall or in the spring. But if you start getting on those clients' properties, you can literally, in today's world, take a picture of something on your phone and text it to them and say, take a picture of their shrubs and say, hey, we can help you out with these shrubs. They look like they need trimmed. Here's a price. And I mean, so just I thought that's marketing. I mean, is it the greatest marketing plan ever? Probably not. But if you see things, you say, hey, your mulch is looking pretty rough. Is there, maybe we can go ahead and install fresh mulch. This is what we charge per yard installed. So things like that, I think would work. Yeah. RBL Jackson is a regular on the channel. Appreciate you being a regular contributor. Yeah, I try to go live. I'm gonna try to do this more often. So thank you for joining. Best setup to get started: weed control and fertilization. Like I say I buy my rigs from Graham Spray Equipment. I like them on a flatbed truck, so I've got the F350 with a 400-gallon flatbed. And then if you can get a ride-on spreader sprayer, those make your life a lot easier. So that's equipment to start out with. Just want to say thank you. I've learned a ton from watching your videos. Thank you. Can you make another video about equipment again with all the new machines you made one 3 years ago? I got to make a lot of videos. Okay, I'm working on making more videos. Anyway, I've heard that you want to mow common Bermuda short in the spring, but let it grow around 2 to 3 inches in the summer. Is this true? You know, I don't know. I do think common Bermuda probably does not do quite as well. I don't know this, but it doesn't seem like it would do quite as well mowed really tight and low. Again, you might consider using a growth regulator or something like that to keep it nice and tight. But the common Bermuda, I had that in my yard. I tried to kill it before I plugged it with the hybrid Bermuda, and I didn't get all of it. So I kind of got a mixture of the common and hybrid, mostly hybrid, but I'm mowing it tight and regular, hoping that some of the hybrid will eventually choke out the common. So I don't know if that helps. Yeah, it's say get a ride-on. Ride-ons are great, okay? But I love my spray tank. If you're on hills and stuff and you got our warm season grasses were loaded with weeds. So I'm still spraying most of my yards with pre-emergent with my tank and hose, but the ride-ons are great. And if my land was flatter, I would probably use them more, but I definitely use them, and I use mine mostly for granular. Kenneth said he hates Bermuda grass. Man, if we got rid of our Bermuda grass, we wouldn't have any grass around here. So we're probably 90% better. Is a push spreader and a backpack sprayer okay for starting out in the fertilization business? Yeah, it is. And I would say definitely that's sure enough a startup. I use the spiker spreaders. I like those. There's other brands out there. That you're going to pay more for your products because you're using a granular version, and then you're going to have to go over the yard twice. You're going to push it to put out your pre-emergent and then go back and spray the weeds. So it's going to cost you more for your products. Of course, so I would say, yeah, start out with that if you need to, and quickly upgrade to a spray tank if possible. And but anyway, it is an option. I'll say that. Okay. Yeah, I had to dig up part of my yard septic tank deal, but we'll grow it back. 2 minutes to go. Somebody said, "Tom, any last questions?" Y'all got 1 or 2 more questions. I'll try to hit real quick. We probably answered 50 today, so I don't know. I didn't know how it was going to go. Maybe not 50, but we got through a lot. But anyway, it's been enjoyable. We're going to try to do it. I don't know if we'll do it weekly. I don't know, but we're going to try to make this a regular part of the channel, and I'm going to try to bring in guests. Okay, and if you want to be a cool season guest, you just reach out to me. Send me a message on Instagram, the Lawn Care Live. You subscribe to me there. But if you want to be a guest on something else, hey, we're just going to be on here taking questions, but we're going to try to do it in the future, having topical. So today I just called it Lawn Care Tips because I knew it was just going to be broad. But in the future, we'll probably focus on a topic and cover that topic and take questions on that topic. Doesn't mean we won't take other questions, but that's what we're going to try to do. Are you going to upload this so I can go back to listen? Yeah, this will automatically go on the YouTube channel, supposedly. So it should be available for anybody to watch in the future if you want to. Should I give an estimate price for lawn care cut right away if the client is with me walking the property? Yeah, I mean, if you can, don't feel pressure, but I try to close the deal on the spot if possible. saturated market. You got a branding going on here. I would say get to know people that and try to focus on certain neighborhoods. Like I say, it's a saturated market, but if I can get to know people who know other people, like I know the mowing guys, so they're sending me the business. Okay, they're referring me, and that puts me ahead of my competitors. But you're gonna have to be more aggressive in that situation. So, and what fertilizer do I need? I'm in Northern Illinois. I mean, again, that's going to be cool season grass. I'm not going to be. We'll cover those later. I buy my fertilizer from Harold's, but there's other brands out there. Your local people can help you put together a program. How's your golf game? It's not that good. On a good day, I could shoot in the 80s. All right, man. Appreciate everybody watching the video and those that are going to watch it later. Thank you for joining. We're going to try to do these regular. If you hadn't done so, subscribe to the channel. And I really enjoyed connecting with the audience to be able to take some questions. Have a good night, everybody. Talk to you later.